We're back. You're listening to the Saluki Gamescast. This is episode 77 for Friday, April 12th, 2024.
Guess who's back? Back again.
Oh, no.
You can't do that in the first 30 seconds. We'll get copyright stricken.
Oh,
My name is Justin Young. That rousing cover version was Alicia Utecht, and we are joined, as usual, by Christina Ivey. Mario is out. He is out of the state, actually, at the moment, so he'll be back next week, so we look forward to that. This is the three of us for this week. Obviously, we've been gone for a while. That's why we're back. We were gone for 2 weeks just because of conflicting schedules and everything. So how has everyone been in the ensuing 2 weeks?
12 weeks.
Hey, it feels like 12 weeks.
Honestly,
at this point.
yeah,
It really does. It really does.
Obviously we had the eclipse. That was Monday of this week. And so it's been pretty exciting. Here in Carbondale is the crossroads of the eclipse, like the 2017 eclipse, and this one make a perfect cross right here.
Yeah. It was really cool too, because the 2017 one we also had totality in Mankato, Minnesota, where I did my undergrad.
Oh, yeah.
But the day of the eclipse, it was just thick storm clouds the whole day. So I didn't get to see anything for that one.
I heard that's how it was here, at least if you were in the stadium.
For the 2017 one, I heard that it was, yeah.
Yeah.
People left the stadium and ran a mile across town to be able to see it.
But it was perfectly clear this time.
Yeah,
This time, it was 80. It was 75 degrees, sunny,
it was lovely.
gorgeous. I had a friend from high school, and her fiance came down and stayed with me for the eclipse.
Oh, that's nice.
And we just walked a mile to the nearest park, set up. We brought a picnic lunch, so that way we didn't have to worry about any of the traffic, any of the restaurants being jam packed. It was honestly a perfect day.
I had friends who were messaging me asking, is it crazy in Carbondale at the beginning of the weekend, on Friday? And I was like, no, they're planning something big, but it hasn't hit yet. And then Sunday morning, I got out, and it was bumper to bumper traffic in downtown Carbondale. And I was like, this is not normal.
Nope.
So it got pretty busy and pretty chaotic around town.
Yeah, I ordered groceries on Friday, and then did not leave my. Well, I went to St. Louis to do a sister's thing, and then when I came back, I did not leave my house.
Yeah. No, I tried to pick up groceries on Friday, and I had it scheduled 6 to 7, and I got there at 6:15 or whatever. 10 minutes later, the guy comes out and is like, we're running really behind. It's going to be half an hour. And I was like, I have plans from 7 to 9 and y'all close at 9. And he's like, are you here tomorrow? I'm like, yeah, I'm in town tomorrow. I can come pick up my groceries tomorrow. And he's like, okay, yeah, that would because thank you. I'm like, you know what? If that's the worst thing that happens, life is good. And you could just see his whole body relax. And he was like,
poor guy.
thank you for having that attitude, because so many people don't.
Well, we had speakers for him last night, and we had Cristados cater for that. And the guy that came in to set everything up and then take everything away, he was really delightful. But he was like, thank you for being patient with us, because they had Easter, then the eclipse to prepare for, and they were so busy. We actually had to cut a couple of things from what we usually order to help them out, basically. But I can't imagine working in an industry like that during this time. I was be nice to those folks, because they're going through a lot.
So I think it was maybe Saturday. I ordered a pizza, and I won't say the place because I don't want to put them on blast on the podcast, but I ordered a pizza because WrestleMania was going on.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to talk about that till Mario gets back. So next episode, we'll talk some about
Sneak peek.
WrestleMania. And then also the NCAA Final Four was going on. So I was particularly excited to watch the women's Final Four because first time ever that like I've been way more excited to watch the women's Final Four than the men's. So that was pretty neat. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to order a pizza. I'm going to sit on my couch and watch basketball and sweaty men in like basically their underwear, like grapple each other.
Yeah.
And so the pizza took forever to get there. And then by the time it got there, it was cold. And so like they sent me one of, some places send you those emails like, hey, how did we do? And so I just said on there, I was like, well, I mean, the food tasted fine, but it was cold and I was very disappointed with it.
Yeah.
They sent me an email like a day later and were like, hey, we're going to give you a $30 credit as our apology for this.
Oh my gosh.
And like that shouldn't have happened. And I was like, and then at the time I wasn't even thinking about that. Of course, all these events are going on, and then people were in town for the eclipse, and they probably were just swamped. And I was like, look, I'm not trying to get anyone in trouble or anything. I was just honestly responding to your survey.
Yeah.
Like, they reached out to me. I wasn't reaching out to them. Because I wouldn't have, not for that. If they had not ever delivered the food.
Right. Excuse me.
Yeah.
You owe me pizza.
No, when I lived in Pennsylvania, the pizza place down the road was very notorious for like the app would say that it was delivered and I would have to call them and be like, I still don't have my pizza.
Right. I've had that happen a few times with like DoorDash.
Yeah.
Where they would say, hey, we delivered it. And I was like, no, you didn't.
Yeah.
And I don't know where it went, if the person delivering ate it or they just like threw it on the side of the road.
Yeah. I've gotten pictures before of other people's houses being like, oh, hey, I delivered this. And I'm like, to where though? Because I don't recognize this place.
I had somebody call me one time. They were door dashing and they said, where is your house? And I said, well, it's at the end of the street. And they said, no, where is it? Where do you live? And I said, are you asking my address? And they said, yes. And I said, well, okay, it should be in the app. I said, but I'll tell you. And so then they said, okay, well, how do I get there? And I was like, there's like
Don't you have Google Maps?
In a car?
Well, like the DoorDash delivery app, my understanding is just like Uber and stuff.
Yep.
It gives them turn-by-turn directions.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know how to explain to you better than the map is showing you. Like, I don't live at some nexus of like forgottenness where you're never going to be able to find my house. It's not a weird location.
No.
The random stairs in the middle of the forest leads to Justin's house.
I mean, like if you're in a big city, I can see sometimes it's like, oh, you have to turn down this street and then back this way. And it was like, no, this is like fairly grid laid out.
Yeah.
It's not hard to find. So that was all the misadventures with the eclipse and everything. I was out the previous week because I was in Chicago for a conference where I was talking about video games.
Yeah.
Imagine that. So I was at the National Conference of the Popular Culture Association talking about game preservation and how different ways that we do game preservation, basically, and looking into some of those. So that was really fun. It's always exciting to go to one of those and get to hear what other people are doing, like what's popular kind of in research at the moment. And that conference is kind of crazy because I feel like when I first started going to it, I just got shoved into something and there was like nothing about video games really going on. And now many years later, there's like 20 plus sessions on video games.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So, game studies feels more like a legitimate field now than it did when I was starting out.
Good. It should be. Like, it's a really influential medium that I think people like. We've talked about this quite a bit, but an influential medium that some people blow off just because it's like, I don't know, the stereotype of it being for kids, I guess, or it just being, I don't know, for all the reasons, but.
And I'll also add that Chicago, pretty cool place to hang out for a few days. Lots of stuff to do, lots of cool things to do, lots of fun stuff to eat.
Yeah.
Got to go to the House of Blues, got to be like.
I love that place.
Like right up against the stage. Like I was like physically close enough to reach out and touch the stage.
Dang.
And it's just like, even that was like, it was this local band, which they were really good. But you're just sitting there eating your food like a few feet away, listening to this very good blues band play, which is like always cool and fun to do.
It's also like a local band in Chicago is different from like a local band in Carbondale. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like, I went to...
Not everybody in Carbondale is Sean Coven, right?
Right.
No offense to our other local bands.
Right. But it's like one time I went to Memphis. I went to a bar but was like, oh, let's go do karaoke. I love karaoke, but didn't think about being in Memphis where everyone is trying to be discovered. And I was like, oh, no, there's not enough alcohol in this establishment for me to be brave enough to go up there.
Well, I mean, it's sort of like going down to Nashville. Like, I think a lot of people think about going to Nashville and they're like, well, I have to get concert tickets and I can't get concert tickets that weekend. It's like, no, just go into any place downtown and there's live music and that live music is better than probably the last concert you went to. Because these are people who are either like, studio musicians or songwriters and they're like all amazing. So yes, very different than Carbondale or, even like Indianapolis, like places that have real music scenes going on.
Yeah.
So that's what's been going on with all of us. It's been an exciting time. It's, as Alicia always says, that time of the semester.
It really is, Justin. It really is.
But I mean, I think just to explain to anyone why we all are so busy. So all sorts of final things coming together right now.
There's only 3 weeks left of the semester before finals.
It's insane. Like, I mean, I'm at that point where I'm describing the final projects to students and I'm thinking, wait, it's already final project time? I'm like, oh yes, it is final project time.
Yeah. I'm in a 8-week back half of the semester course and like we just did the midterm. I just did the midterm presentation last night and I'm like looking and like, oh my gosh, there's another presentation and a paper and I have to do this in 3 weeks.
It feels like I just walked into the classroom. And I've had a really good class this semester, which I can normally say, but this class in particular has been like every single day they come in and we have really great conversations. And there's folks from like so many different countries in this class. So it's been like a really neat cultural experience too for us to all compare like our stories and stuff. So
is that the critical comm pedagogy?
Yeah. So yeah, we have folks from Africa in there, right? Our grad students, but we also have someone from Pakistan in there, and then of course different areas of the U.S. So it's been really cool. I'm gonna miss them, but it'll be good.
No, that is cool. It's always like I think students start to realize that and start to see that having a diverse group of students in a classroom makes the class more interesting because not everybody thinks the same.
Exactly.
Right? They're going to bring in different experiences, different viewpoints, and not just like, I think sometimes people assume when you talk about diversity like that, you mean like different political viewpoints, but like just different ways, outlooks on life.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it really does change a classroom and make it more dynamic and interesting that way. The value of a big state school liberal arts education, right?
Exactly.
You condemn us all for it. All right, well, let's jump into games because we have quite a bit to talk about, and we'll start off with what you've been playing. Alicia, what have you been playing recently?
So obviously I've been playing a lot of Pokemon Go still, just especially with the weather getting nicer. It's a lot easier to go out and go on walks, and
I would be really interested to see their usage numbers like on a graph to see how they spike when it gets to be April.
Yeah, me too. Because I'm like, I feel like it must be, like, I can't be the only one who kind of falls off during winter and comes back when it's nice out.
Sure.
I can almost guarantee you're not.
Yeah, like I would be shocked if there were more people who played during winter than summer.
Right.
And so I've been playing a lot of that. And then I also recently watched a full playthrough of all the routes of Undertale Yellow, which is a fan game that was in development for 8 years, and my gosh, does it show. It is phenomenal. I genuinely, I'm like, this is now canon. Clover is the human with the yellow soul, all of these areas of the underground and what they do, one of the things that they do that's so smart is they have a couple of cameos from the characters who you know from Undertale. So like you see Toriel at the start, but then you fall through. Then Clover falls through again, so you don't get to continue moving forward with Toriel. And like the pacifist ending, you get to see Alphys, and the flawed pacifist ending, you see Asgore. But like other than that, Flowey is the only character from the original game who is there constantly.
Right.
Because he's your save point.
So it's more of a side story than trying to be a sequel or something.
It's a prequel.
Okay.
Yeah. So, because, by the time of the original Undertale game, Asgore already has 6 human souls. So Undertale Yellow covers the journey of Clover, who is the human with the yellow soul, and also touches on, they don't give a name for this one, but the light blue or the dark blue? No, I forget. One of the other ones, whichever one fell before Clover. But they do such a good job in that, like, you can, by having these moments with characters that you know, but other than those little moments, it's entirely an original cast.
Right.
That way, like, if you do, whether you do pacifist, neutral, genocide, doesn't matter. It's not gonna hurt the flow of the original game.
Right.
Like, it still slots in very nicely.
That sounds sort of like how they used to do Star Wars games. Like one of the things I used to really like about the old LucasArts, like 90s sort of Star Wars games like TIE Fighter and stuff, is that the characters like Darth Vader and those characters would show up, but they weren't necessarily the focus of the game.
Yeah.
It was more kind of like, expanded universe back when there was an expanded universe in Star Wars. So it was that kind of stuff, and it was always like really interesting because it was like, yeah, I like Han Solo, but I've already been through Han Solo's adventure. I want to see this other person's adventure. And if Han Solo shows up for a few minutes, that's cool because I like him. But like, I'm much more interested in this other story. And
you can see like the intersections of where it happens, like,
exactly,
with the story itself. That's cool.
Yeah, it's so good.
It's something I don't like about modern Star Wars games.
Yeah.
As much.
No. But yeah, and Undertale Yellow is just so good. And I think we talked a couple months ago about like it's 98% of the soundtrack is original. They do use a couple of songs directly from Undertale. And then people were like, you're going to get copyright claimed. And Toby Fox was like, y'all realize I got my start doing Earthbound ROM hacks.
Yeah.
And like, yes, I had Megalovania in there, but also I used Earthbound songs. Like, it's cool. But yeah, it's just incredible. And then people are already doing like, I watched a run of a mod that's Undertale Red and Yellow, where it's the normal Undertale game, but they add in some of the locations from Yellow, and they add in the more clearly that the narrator is Kara, the original fallen human, and add in narration from Clover as well.
Oh, okay.
So like it's so cool seeing how the whole community has really come together around this to be like, yes, this is canon now. A lot of people have waited since the demo came out in 2016 for this game to come out. And so for it to finally come out in December, the hype around it has... I was semi paying attention to Undertale in December. It wasn't big for me, but right now it is, and it's just so cool to see all the hype around it.
I like hearing you talk about games because it's obvious you're a scholar that studies fandom. So like your emphasis and how you talk about games a lot comes from that perspective, and yeah, the community around it, and like just the behaviors and actions that goes into building a fandom. So that's really cool.
Nerd.
Yeah.
Well, I think like particularly with a game like Undertale, because that game has such a unique fandom, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, for this little indie game that people are rabidly passionate about,
Yeah.
in a way that very few other games ever develop that sort of cult following.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And like the people who love Undertale, like I like Undertale, but the people who love it love that game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And love it at a level like that. And I don't mean this disparagingly. I don't understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting,
Yeah.
right? Like to like get those sorts of insights and hear what fans are doing. Because when I hear about it, I'm like, people are still doing stuff with that game. That game's old at this point, but that's cool. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Well, and Undertale's also really, I mean, speaking of about the Undertale fandom, it's also really interesting seeing how the Homestuck fandom really transitioned into Undertale, which explains some of the craziness. But just because, Homestuck, Toby Fox, his first like real person job was working with Andrew Hussey on Homestuck.
right.
And like Megalovania is in Homestuck. And then when Hussey was like, yeah, we're doing this Hive Swap game, and then that vanished, like, versus Toby Fox was like, hey, yeah, Undertale. And basically, I mean, him and Temmie did it themselves and got it out. Meanwhile, Hive Swap still 8 years later has a chapter, and it's a really boring little chapter.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting that you can follow a game like that closely. Even the behind the scenes, maturations that you're talking about, like these two people were working together and now they're not. Now they went off and they're working on a game together. Like that becomes a whole different way, I think, of like approaching games.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Like, I mean, it's almost like an anthropological way of looking at games, right? Like the history and the people and the surrounding of it.
Yeah, and I think it's really cool because like a lot of times you think about fan loyalty to a particular brand or a particular individual, and the fan loyalty around Toby Fox is rabid, like you said. But I think it's really interesting looking at how it shifted from Homestuck and Andrew Hussey to Undertale and Toby Fox.
Yeah. Well, anything else?
Yeah, I did also play this neat little game. I didn't have a chance to beat it yet, but this neat little indie game called Saluki X Eclipse.
Yeah. I was going to talk about that too.
Haven't heard of it.
That's so weird because I have a screenshot of this character named Justin Young,
who does a video games podcast with grad students and faculty.
Yeah.
And has a kitty named Gizmo.
I also took a screenshot of Gizmo. Gizmo is in the game.
I haven't found Gizmo yet.
Oh, well, that's how you haven't beat the game. No, I haven't beat it either. There's
you can't beat the game unless you see Gizmo.
I was about to say, there's one level that I keep getting caught on. It's the forest level.
Right.
I cannot navigate up the thing. I keep getting hit by these butterflies that then zap you to the bottom. Oh. But that's the only level that I had not beaten. I got all the other ones.
There are some shortcuts to make that a little easier.
Yeah, well, I didn't find them.
It helps to have an in with one of the game developers.
Right. Which I don't know who that is because Justin's never heard of this game.
I guess.
I mean, it sounds like one of those weird little indie games.
Definitely. But I enjoyed playing it.
I'm having fun.
Uh-huh.
I think it's a very cute little game. I love getting to run around as the Saluki.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And like the little Eclipse tidbits that you get, and it's really fun to see like the shout outs to campus and to at the level you're doing. I'm assuming was the downtown one where you at. Yeah. And so like you see
we should explain to people
Oh,
like,
yeah,
what we're
fair,
actually talking
fair.
about. Like, I mean, the intro is funny, but we should actually explain it now. So we've talked about this, I think, on the podcast briefly before, but I am part of a class this semester that is developing a game. So we developed a game specifically for the Eclipse. It went up onto the university's website. There are about 16 people working on the game, and it is set around Carbondale. So like mostly on SIU's campus, but also downtown and everything. So I was one of the people working on the game, so that's what Alicia and Christina are joking about. But yeah, Christina, you were talking about downtown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, one of the levels, and that's where you find a character named Justin Young and talk to. And did y'all do the voice, like for the voice pieces that are there? Did you all record that? Was that?
Yeah, we recorded that in here.
Yeah.
I'll say-
that's so cool.
I love when I get up there. Gizmo.
Yeah. Gizmo. Using Gizmo. Yeah. So each character that you go to, I'm assuming, are different folks who have had a hand in developing the game.
For the most part, there are a few just generic NPCs in there.
Gotcha.
Particularly in our level, I feel like.
So the level that Justin designed was basically on like the I don't know what
On the
people
strip.
call it. On the strip.
Strip.
Is that what folks call it? Okay.
I love you don't have Quattro's pizza, but you do have Cinco's.
Yeah. So there's
deep pizza.
there's like funny little names of things so that I'm assuming copyright, but they're definitely indicative of a Carbondale experience. And each level you go to, you collect little things in order to get. What is it? Like a pamphlet for the Eclipse, a camera,
the
glasses. Yeah.
And the Saluki drip.
That's what it is. So, and you play as our wonderful little mascot, and he's so cute.
Like Grey Dog.
Yeah.
And it's the not scary gray dog.
Yeah.
It's the cute gray dog.
He is adorable. But yeah, so each level you go to, you collect these things, and I don't know what happens at the end because that forest level, y'all, is intense. And there's these butterflies that are apparently toxic, and this little weird forest nymph thingy tells you that they're toxic, and if you touch them you get zapped back at the very beginning. And
But when you touch them, do you hear the
Unfortunately not. No, because see, even that would make me happy. That towards the end I was like, you know what, screw this. But that was the only level that I got frustrated on. So overall, I would, especially coming from somebody who's not the biggest platformer, I think if that's the one like riff I have on it, it's a good game. It's a good game.
Yeah, I think as someone who doesn't play a lot of PC games, I'm like trying to adjust her. I'm like, but I'm having fun. It's very nostalgic and like definitely gives me throwback vibes to like, when you
Cartoon
could go on
Network.
I was just about to say when you could go on Cartoon Network and play games on their website for the
Yeah.
different shows.
Yeah, I think it has about the complexity of a Flash game.
Yeah.
Of that era, and but yeah, I mean it's a game that 16 people put together and like completely made everything from scratch. So everything in that game
In the span of like 2.5 months.
Yeah, and basically the first half of the semester. And going from like having no knowledge of how to work with Unity and, how to make graphics, pixel graphics for Unity and to put it all together. I mean, it's a really amazing achievement. And like, I know I'm part of it. So that sounds like I'm bragging, but like I'm really impressed with all the work everyone did in that game.
Yeah.
Right. Like I'm not that impressed with the work I did, but I'm really impressed.
I am, Justin. I am impressed with your work.
That voice acting. Yeah. I believed you're really looking for your cat.
But like just all the work that different people put into that game. There are undergrads and grad students involved in that. And I think a lot of it is really cool and neat, and there's some clever stuff in there.
Mm-hmm.
I love the little skateboard. I saw the skateboarding bird, and I'm like, that's my favorite.
There's a lot of little things like that within it. And honestly, if I didn't know it was created by folks in the span of 2.5 months, I would never have guessed it. So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think you can actually, so for people listening, you can go to our website, salukigames.com, and you can actually play the game on there. There's a story that links to it and everything so that you can play the game. I think at some point we're going to do a sort of version 1.1 or something of it, because there's a few things that we just ran out of time to fix and include in the game. So I think at some point those might get patched up and a new version put up and everything. But yeah, it's a neat experience, and I think it's a cool experience for people to actually be able to make a game collaboratively like that.
Yeah.
And it came together, I think the reaction that most people had, it came together much better than we expected. Because like when you're in the middle of it, you're making all these disparate elements, and you're like, is any of this going to work? Is any of this going to feel cohesive?
Yeah.
So it's cool to hear you say that, yes, it does somewhat.
Yeah. It's a fun little game. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. But for those listening, definitely go salukigames.com and you can play that through the website. All right. Well, Alicia, other than Saluki X, the Eclipse, are you playing anything else?
That's been it for me. I still need to... I intended to buy Princess Peach Showtime the weekend it came out, and then my Target gift card didn't work, so I had to get a new one mailed to me. It's finally here, but then Eclipse weekend. So I'm like, one of these days I'm going to drive out to Marion and buy that and play it, but I don't know when that will be.
Well, I think I told you I saw somebody playing that the other day, and it looked neat. Like, I mean, they were playing beyond the demo that I have played, so I was kind of impressed by it.
No, I am very excited to play it. I was talking to a friend about how, and we've had this conversation about like how few girly games there are right now. Right. And so like having one come out and like being out of place, where I am like, yes, let me play the girly game. I am excited for the chance to. I just need to have time to make it out to Target.
All right. Christina, what have you been playing?
So the only one that I've played has been the Saluki X game. Otherwise, I've been really busy the past 2 weeks.
Man, that game has kept you busy for 2 weeks?
No. Like,
I can beat that game in like 5 minutes.
Listen. You also made the game.
I want to see that on speedrun.com, Justin. World record holder for Saluki X Eclipse.
But no, I've been watching quite a few games. It's just like...
Have you been watching people stream Saluki X?
No, but I'm going to write that down.
Yes.
I need to stream that on Twitch. I don't know that anyone else has, so...
Yeah.
Yep. But I have been watching quite a few games. So first of all, we've mentioned Balatro, however you say it.
Sure.
I've been watching tournaments of it. I don't know if you've gotten a chance to watch any of the tournaments, but essentially different tournaments have different roles. The one that I've been watching is like, it gives folks 2 hours and they're not allowed to use the plasma deck, but any other deck, any other chip is is a go, and whoever gets the highest scores, like the top 3 are the ones who advance to the next level. So I've been watching some of my favorite streamers do those. It's really cool. And then I've also been watching a new the update for Shadows of Doubt has come out, which is a fun game where you're like playing a detective basically, and like a private detective, and you're trying to solve these crimes as they happen. And it's really, really cool the way it breaks it down. It very much feels like a puzzle game, which is usually stuff that I end up watching. Plus the art style of it is really cool because it's like 8-bit little things. So it's really been fun. And then the last one that I've been watching is going to be, it's a weird one, but for some reason I got hooked into it.
Story of my life.
Yeah, dude. It's Buckshot Roulette.
Oh,
Yeah.
I saw this game.
It is weird, and honestly, like if I wasn't watching someone play it, I don't think I would have purchased it. But you wake up in a dingy nightclub bathroom with, it says "afraid" on the mirror, one of those things, and you walk out. And you walk into this room, you're asked by this creepy little goblin guy to sign a waiver, basically. And then you play Russian roulette with this guy.
With like a 12-gauge shotgun?
Yes. Yeah. I know it's intense, and like you have certain lives, and they like if you quote unquote get, if you get shot or you die or whatever, they like boost you back to life. You get through the first round basically by a basic understanding of AI and luck. After that, you have rounds where you get certain objects to help you. So like you get a magnifying glass that helps you see what the next shot is. Oh, and before it starts, they tell you how many are live shots, how many are duds, essentially. But yeah, the magnifying glass will tell you what's coming up. You get to drink a beer, which will just basically shoot out the next shot that's coming. They have a knife where you can cut off the top of the gun to like do double damage to whoever. But yeah, you can choose to shoot yourself or shoot the other person. And it's intense, and like it was one of those games that like unfortunately like I watched it long enough because I was too lazy to change the channel, that it got to a point where once you get past like what the game is doing, it becomes one of those like figuring out the AI and like, oh, here's where I use these things. They have like handcuffs where that means you get to go twice in a row, that sort of thing. And basically you're just trying to beat the dealer, quote unquote. So it's a really weird game, but it's gaining popularity on Steam, which is why I wanted to talk about it. Cause
right.
Yeah, it's it's one of those games that's like, I don't understand why this is so popular, and yet I watched quite a bit of it. So I could see, again, once people get past the like, hey, you're playing Russian roulette with a with a shotgun, sorry. You see the game of it kind of, and I don't know, it was weird.
It sort of reminded me, there was a game a couple of years ago, and I can't remember the name of it offhand, but what I saw of it, which was just kind of the trailer.
Yeah.
But there was a game where there was a British game show of this, but it's where you decide if you're going to split the money with the other contestant.
Yeah.
And you split it by like you both saying, oh no, we'll split, or you say take it all for yourself. And if you say take it all for yourself, you get it all.
Yep.
And but if you both say you'll take it,
you both get none.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a philosophical problem, right?
Yeah.
Like, and they made a game of that, and it blew up really big on Steam for like, I don't know, maybe a few weeks, and it reminded me a lot of that from what I saw. So like, at first I thought it was a competitive game. I thought you were like playing Russian roulette against somebody else, which probably adds a whole other layer
Honestly,
to it.
yeah.
But yeah, it is one of those interesting games that just comes out of nowhere, and you're like, there's a Russian roulette game that's really popular, and you're like, a Russian roulette game?
And the images for it are intense. Like, I don't know if you were able to look at any of the the visuals for it.
Yeah.
But like the little goblin you play against is so incredibly terrifying.
Right.
Like, he's just this like little goblin with like super sharp teeth, and like all you see is his head floating. And
I don't like that.
I don't like it. It's a nightmare. But also, I watched so much of this game, Alicia, and I don't know why. It just
because you watch a lot of scary things, Christina. You live for Dead by Daylight.
Okay, but that's not scary. That's not. It's a little scary. It is scary if you play against Michael Myers and you don't realize you're playing against Michael Myers, and you turn around and all of a sudden he's just standing there staring at you, and you're like, "Hey, dude, what's up? I'm gonna finish this generator. I'll handle you in a second." Like it's.
You don't turn around and open up your arms for a hug and go, Mikey!
No, because you can't do that. I do point at him, though. Like, you have a button where you point at him. So I'll point at him, and then I point back at the generator. Like, 1 second, let me do this. In which case, he'll come and grab me. But, yeah, it's another one of those things. I guess that's why, again, I'm interested, Alicia, in the way that you talk about games, because of the fandom. Because I'm like, what is this fandom? What are the people that like games like this, that buy games like this? I'm interested, but also, am I one of them? And if so, I don't know what that says about me. So,
It's got a real grimy look to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like it's got a sort of Saw or the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre sort of look to it that I think makes it visually interesting when you first see it. But yeah, I mean, you talking about, so like, who plays this game? Who is this game made for, right? Like, so I know I've talked about this game jokingly before, but honestly, the first time I saw Galgun, that was like my instant thought, like, well, who is this game made for? This is not
the answer of Galgun is weebs. Well, said as a recovering weeb.
Yes, but also like you look at it and you go, okay, well, like, okay, so Galgun as an experience makes a whole lot of sense if it comes out in like 1985 before the internet exists, or before the web exists, right? The internet exists, sorry. But before the web exists, because if you're 12, it's difficult to get access to pornography. And so like porn light makes a whole lot of sense. In this day and age, why are people buying this game and playing it when you could just as easily like go do a quick search and get something that's like real and not this like, you know, anime stylish thing?
I mean, if we're going to get into like the psychology of that, maybe it's a not wanting to admit that that's what they're wanting to watch. No, I'm playing a game. I'm not doing that. No.
There's some interesting.
It's still hentai.
I was gonna say there's some interesting conversations around hentai that I feel are relevant here.
But like, I mean, my point being, like, you can get that hentai other places, right, without playing it in the form of a game.
Yeah.
So, right, this isn't the situation of the appeal of Night Trap when it first comes out. Well, like, are they going to show these girls in their underwear? I'll play this game just to see that because this game is scandalous and they're telling me we have to ban it. And like, that doesn't seem to be an appeal anymore. So like with a game like this, right? Like, what is that appeal that is bringing people to play this specific game?
Well, to me, that's like any of the... what is it? The mock dating games.
Oh, dating sims.
Dating sims that like turn into that. Like even Dead by Daylight came out with a dating sim. It's called Hooked on You.
Oh my gosh.
You better believe it's on my computer. And because it has like essentially you are somebody trapped on like a desert island, and each of the killers is well, not all of them, but like some of them have been remodeled and they're hot, you know what I'm saying? It's like, and
they're
you're
an
trying
eligible to potential partner.
Yeah, the trapper is just this like beefy dude, and it's just, you know what I'm saying? Dude, I don't know. It's whoever. To me, that feels like that same genre And maybe I don't understand who they're for because I am not one of them. And honestly, I can leave it in that. It'd be okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's fine. Like, people can have their game.
Yeah.
Right? Like, but it is interesting just from an academic perspective about like, okay, well, these games, it's not that they're just getting made, it's that they're finding an audience.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. And that audience is embracing it. And so like, what are they, for lack of a more subtle way to put it, what are they getting out of this? Like, you know, like, because we know what we get out of certain games, but like, what are you getting out of, you know, a Russian roulette simulator?
Yeah. Outside of, like I said, the only thing I could think of but this would be my jaw, is like once you get past the shock value of it, it becomes a puzzle game. It becomes, can you beat the AI?
Sure. Yeah.
And they give you all kinds of different tools to be able to do that. The AI also has those tools, and so it's just figuring that out. But it took a bit for me to. I think that the first part of me watching it was just going, what is this?
Right.
What the griminess kind of, but then again, yeah, I watched Saw. I've watched a lot of those kinds of things. And then once again that wears off, and then it's like, oh, figuring out the puzzle of it. So, yeah, it was just really interesting to me.
And that's what's interesting. Like, I mean, at its heart, what you're saying is a puzzle game, but like, here's all these trappings kind of on top of it,
Yeah.
right? Like that once you peel all those away, oh, well, this isn't that different than this other puzzle game.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is kind of like what we were talking about with Balatro. That's like, it's interesting to me that like it's getting banned from certain places because it's quote unquote gambling, and I get that it is, but also Balatro itself isn't, I mean, you have to know the basics of poker, but it is not poker. Like, you do not get magical jokers that allow you to get multi and whatever, blah, blah, blah.
No, that'll get you shot in a real poker game.
Exactly.
At least it's not a game of Russian roulette.
Like, you literally get shot in that game, right? But it's just one of those things. It's like, it's funny to me that, because like, if they're banning it for gambling, then there are many games that can set you up better to play poker, to whatever. So it seems like a lot of those games kind of go into that category without people realizing that that's what they're doing, I guess.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it gets to, a lot of games are about the same basic core concepts once you strip away all the trappings on top.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, that's what was always so kind of neat about idle games, because idle games are about the numbers going up. And then when you realize that a lot of games that you play are just you watching the numbers go up.
Yep.
You accomplishing tasks to have your numbers go up so that you can then advance to a next level and your numbers go up further, right? Like, and that was what was always neat about those games, is they stripped away everything else down to its most basic level and said, this is what all games are, basically.
Yep. It's that a text that Mario and I read when we were at BSU that like talks about gaming in terms of like ludology and narratology, right? Like there's either this like sort of basic mechanics for play, or you're doing it primarily for the story. So it's really interesting to just kind of see how that plays out in different ways, that even though it kind of, again, stripping it down to its basics ends up being typically one of those two things, but the wild variety of games we can have come from that is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think anytime you take an art form, you start like stripping it down, and like film, when people talk about film, they're often like, well, it's 24 still images a second. That's all a movie is. It's not something magic, right? Yeah. Like, and you're like, yes, but when put together, it is magical.
Exactly.
And the way you put a game together is magical sometimes. All right, anything else?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Well, speaking of magical games, I will talk about a couple of games that I've been playing. So the first one is What the Car?
Justin, can I just say, I looked at the titles that you put on here, and I was like, these both sound delightful.
Well, there's certainly a theme for me this week, the games I was playing.
Look at it.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
So What the Car is from the creators of What the Golf. which was a mobile game that eventually came out onto consoles and PC and everything. This game was apparently on Apple Arcade, and like a lot of Apple Arcade games, they come out on there initially as an exclusive and eventually come to other platforms. So they have put out a demo for What the Car so that you can play that demo now on Steam. And it is basic. Like, I really liked What the Golf. It's not the most amazing game in the world, but it's a very fun game. And it has almost nothing to do with golf. So, like, even if you're not into golf, it's still like really exciting and fun to play. It's sort of more like kind of mini golf through a variety of environments. This is, you are playing as a car.
The most adorable little car, I will add.
And each level puts different abilities onto the car. So like the first level I think that you do is like you are a car with legs. So instead of driving, you are running through the level. And then they have one where you have legs all around you. So you are rolling
like
on this.
somersaulting.
Yeah, you're kind of like rolling on this like central axis. And then it'll have ones where you are a shark car and you're like swimming through water.
What?
And so this is just like they did with What the Golf. They just sort of, it starts out very simple and you're like, okay, I get where you're going with this. And then it just sort of escalates from
They're
there.
just like, how weird can we get?
Right.
Yeah.
And they have this very kind of good, the developers of the game, I think, have a very good sense of humor. That their weirdness actually comes off as like humorous, like as you start each new level, and you're excited to see what is each new level going to be, right? And it sort of has that appeal of, we talked about Mario Wonder, right? So the Wonder seed in each level does something new. This, you know, right from the beginning what's different, but like it makes you want to play one more level. It has that very addictive quality because you're like, well, what's going to be really weird and bizarre in this new level? And so like one of them is you are a car on office chairs on wheels. So like everything controls like an office chair, right?
Oh my gosh, this game sounds amazing.
It does. And like I've been looking at videos and pictures and it is adorable too. The art style is real nice.
Yeah, it has a really cool art style. It's a really fun game. And, you know, like I said, I really liked What the Golf. I don't think it made my top 10 the year it came out, but it was one of those games that was like right outside my top 10 at the time. And it's a really fun experience. So if you're interested in this, I don't think it's fully out yet on Steam or other platforms. Play What the Golf, because that's a really fun game. And then again, when this comes out, I think it'll be really cool. I'm excited to play the full game now. I don't have a whole lot more to say about it other than, like look up videos of it. I think very quickly you'll know whether this is a game for you or not. The levels are short. So like when I say there's levels, like the levels are like 30 seconds long to complete. I mean, remember it started as a mobile game. So it is very much sort of designed around that, but it plays very well with a controller, which is how I was playing it on Steam. The second game I played, which
another car game.
Yeah, which is another card game. Well,
with another delightful title.
Both of these are card games, but not really card games, which is kind of interesting that there were two out around the same time. This one is called Yellow Taxi Goes Vroom. This is, what if we made a N64 platformer where you play as a car?
Yep, that's exactly what it looks like.
And so it has the look of sort of an N64 platformer.
Okay, and also some of those characters look terrifying. That pizza.
So what I'm showing
Christina
the trailer.
Pulled up a trailer.
And it like one of the headlines is "Meet Lots of Weirdos," and it's like N64 looking like pizza slice. And there was this I don't know, old New York looking dude that's bald with a white tank top.
His name is Mario.
So
this is a game that very much
Mario Wander.
this is very much a game playing like for goofiness and everything.
Yeah.
I don't think the humor always lands the way they want it to, but
Mario's pretty good though.
it is being very sort of goofy in that way. Like when Mario is talking to you, the camera cuts with every line that he delivers, and it starts off very sort of like normal framing of him, but then it's like down like below his belly, like looking up at him and kind of like over his shoulder, like all these weird angles.
To also help, the next video that came up after the trailer says it's a review for it, and it says Banjo-Kazooie meets Crazy Taxi. So I get the N64 reference now of like the use of quote unquote like camera angles or whatever to deliver some of the humor in it.
Right.
And it being a very like physical humor based. Like another character is this Godzilla looking animal that's like, of course, hanging off of a building, and like its face is contorted in such a way that you can tell it's like that attempt at humor, almost like that. What is it? Gruntilda is the
right, the witch.
Yeah. Where she had that one eyeball that was just much bigger than the others, you know. And so it looks a lot like that kind of aesthetic.
Yeah. So it is. You play as a little taxi cab. You can collect hats that you can wear, but basically, you're going through the level and you're collecting gears, and each level has a number of gears. So sort of like the puzzle pieces in Banjo-Kazooie, and you can't jump, but there are ramps, and you have a boost. And so as you go up a ramp, you can boost, and it'll make you like jump through the air. And so you have to navigate like climbing up vertically in some levels
without a jump button.
Right? There is a button that will flip you over, and there's some other abilities. And I'm not very far in the game. I just played the first kind of few levels. But it's really kind of fun. I mean, it's really it feels like the sort of game that used to get made during the N64 era, in that like Glover. Glover is an N64 game where you play as a glove, and you are navigating like Mario 64 style levels as this glove, right? And so you're using all the like sort of physics and ideas of like, okay, I have to bounce this ball, and then I have to throw the ball up onto the next level, and then I climb up there. And so this is like, okay, well, what if we made a game like that, but you're a taxi cab?
Yeah.
And that makes, like, it's that sort of experimentation, right?
Yeah.
And we talk on this podcast a lot, or I think I rant mostly about, we used to get these really weird experimental games from big publishers. Like Glover's a big publisher made game. Buck Bumble, where you play a bumblebee and has like the greatest like theme song ever for a video game. We used to get those sorts of weird games, as major releases, and now they're indie games. And this is a cool one of those. And it kind of reminds me of the game Tinykin, which came out, was it 2 years ago now?
I feel like I remember you talking about it.
Yeah, that game did make my top 10, I believe. But Tinykin was one of those like, okay, you're shrunk down, you're tiny in a big world. So you're like exploring bedrooms and stuff, and you're finding items that are hidden behind books on a bookshelf and all that sort of stuff. We used to get games like that from big publishers. We don't so much anymore, and we're finding them in this indie space. Yeah. And it's really cool that we're getting those sorts of games. This is a good one of those. It doesn't always, it's kind of frustrating sometimes, the physics and like getting it to do exactly what you want, but it works better than you think it should. Yeah. Like if somebody told you it's a platformer where you play as a car, your first instinct is going to be, that sounds nightmarish trying to control and play.
It looks really fun though, yeah.
Yeah, but it works much better than it sounds. So it's a really cool little game. I feel like Mario would be like right up his alley because he loves N64 games and plays so many of them.
And it's not monster trucks.
It is a taxi cab, not a monster truck. That is true, Alicia.
Mario likes monster trucks.
Honestly, Mario looks like the kind of guy who'd probably dig monster trucks based on the pictures I just saw.
He really does. He has probably been to more than a few Sunday monster truck rallies. But yeah, it's a cool game. Both of those are really cool games. And, like, it is easy to get jaded about video games, particularly, I think, with a lot of the negative stories we talk about. And we're going to talk about some negative ones here in a minute in the news section. But then these sort of games come along, you're like, yeah, like, there's really cool games still out there getting made. Mm-hmm. Besides Spider-Man 2, that's a cool game, but that's a $300 million game. Like, what about games that average people are making?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's cool stuff like this. That's fun. All right, let's move on into the news. And speaking of these like kind of small indie games, they hosted the Triple I Initiative Showcase this week. So the Triple I Initiative Showcase is this kind of stupid terminology. So it used to be in games that games were described often as AAA games or AA games or single A games. And that was always a some people mistake it as a description of quality, but it was always meant as a description of budget. Like your AAA games were like the big budget games, and then you had AA, which were often a lot of your sort of kind of like licensed games. So if you were getting like a SpongeBob game, that was a AA game. Yeah. Because they weren't spending a ton of money to make that because they know it's little kids are going to buy it because it's SpongeBob.
Right.
So when they start when indie games really took off and everything, one of the issues was, okay, well, there is Saluki X, which is like a student game project, right? But then there's stuff like What the Car, and how do you differentiate between those, right? Because not all indie games are created equal.
Right.
Undertale is not the same as, somebody's my first game, right?
Yeah.
And so they came up with this term Triple I to refer as these like more complete experiences, more like competitive with like major publisher type games. Mm-hmm. So a lot of these publishers have banded together, these small indie game developers, and they put on this show together, which is the Triple I Initiative Showcase. So these are theoretically all indie games, though that term, what it exactly means, like some of these games were actually financed by major publishers. So like, they're not technically indie games, but like the first one we're going to talk about here is a game that's developed by an indie studio working with a major publisher. So is that really an indie game?
Yeah.
But anyways, they had this show. I just wanted to talk about a few of the highlights and everything. You can go watch the full show. Just search for the Triple I Initiative Showcase on YouTube. It's kind of neat. So one of the things they showed off was something that's been rumored for a while, which is the Dead Cells developers are making a Prince of Persia game. It's called the Rogue Prince of Persia because it's going to be a roguelike. It is a 2D side-scrolling that looks sort of like a cartoon animation. I believe they described it as like a German comic influence.
I was looking at Google Images. I was like, this is giving vibes of like the early thousands Cartoon Network stuff for me.
Yeah, so maybe in images it does. In
images,
in video, it's much more animated and smooth than I think a lot of those games. To me, it really reminded me of the Shinobi game that they made on the PlayStation 2 because they actually have a sash tied around your waist. And in that Shinobi game, they had a sash on your character, and they said it was so that you could more easily follow your character because you were moving so quickly around the screen.
Yeah.
So it's almost like if you've ever watched hockey on TV and they do the red trail behind the puck and everything so you can follow it. It's sort of that kind of mindset. So they do that in this game, and it's kind of a cool look, but it immediately made me think of PlayStation 2 Shinobi.
Yeah.
And this is from the Dead Cells developers. Dead Cells is still like one of the best playing indie games, or any game really, that I've played over the last decade. So I'm immediately excited for this game just by the way that the people who are making it and the way that it looks.
Nice.
But it does have you like kind of jumping onto poles and like leaping off of them and somersaulting over.
So still a Prince of Persia game.
Right.
Yeah.
It still looks like a Prince of Persia game. The story trailer, the trailer that they released is mostly story, and it has you trying to save a little girl and her cat. So like that's kind of neat looking. I don't know how much that's going to play into it because they show the cat being sort of active. So I don't know if at any point you'll actually interact with the cat during the gameplay.
Sold.
We do love our cat games around here on this podcast. So that would look really neat. Let's see. They also showed off Vampire Survivors is finally coming to PlayStation 4 and 5. So our game of the year a couple of years ago is finally coming to PlayStation. And as part of that, they announced new Contra DLC for this game called Operation Guns.
I love it.
Which is just like the most blunt, like, let's get right to the point title
Subtlety.
for DLC.
Never heard of her.
But it actually has the two characters from Contra as playable characters, and it has like new weapons and everything. It has at one point it shows you on like the speeder bikes that are from Contra Hardcore. So it has you like riding those through a level while enemies are chasing you. So it looks like they're really doing some fun stuff with this. And I know obviously I have praised Vampire Survivors a lot on this podcast, but the thing I'll say for them is they keep putting out DLC. That DLC keeps being fairly cheap.
Yeah.
And it keeps being fairly substantial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you pay $2 or $3 and you're getting several hours of gameplay out of it.
Yeah.
So good for them. Let's see. Slay the Spire 2 was announced for 2025 early access. That's the card game.
Yeah.
Speaking of card games, like not quite like Balatro, but the same principle. And Pal World is getting arena player versus player mode. So if you wanted Pokemon Coliseum on your PC, you can now play that in Pal World. So
Oh, yay.
I think that game their popularity has fallen off quite a bit.
I was going to say, who's still playing Pal World?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why they're coming out with arena PvP mode that looks a lot like Pokemon, like Coliseum, but it's not Pokemon. It's just the Coliseum.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
No, don't forget you can download the legally distinct, not Pocket Monsters mod or whatever it was.
I mean, look, the characters in there already look like Pokemon. Like the mod, I understand, but also it's kind of like unnecessary.
Redundant, basically.
Because if you know Pokemon, like I mean,
think the mod was more for the human characters, if I remember right.
well, I mean, there are already characters in there. You're like, oh, right, that's a Pikachu. So, but yeah, go watch that show. There's a lot of other cool stuff in that show. Some of it's hard to talk about on a podcast, so we're not going to talk about it. Those were kind of the big names that got shown off in it. But there was a lot of other cool stuff that looked fun to me. And again, right, like we are getting more and more of these games. There were games shown as part of this show that I looked at and thought, oh, in the 90s, that would have been a major publisher's game on the PC. and now it's just some indie studio making it. The danger, I guess, with those sorts of games is always, do they find an audience?
Yeah.
Right? Like for every success of Balatro, where this game comes out of nowhere and becomes a huge hit, there are many, many games that just nobody ever finds.
Yeah.
Or not enough people, to make it a legitimate business. The other thing that I think is kind of interesting is you have like Slay the Spire 2, you have Power World, like, integrating Coliseum sort of gameplay, and you have Vampire Survivors on its like 10th DLC package. Indie games are becoming entire franchises now.
Yeah.
In a way that they didn't used to be. You used to get this one-off game and you'd be like, oh, that's neat. And then now you have these games that's like, oh, here's the 10th thing from this game.
Yeah. It kind of makes sense, though. I mean, based on the problems that we've talked about on this podcast quite a bit, that they have to basically milk these games for all their worth based on like the quote-unquote like manpower, like the folks that they have working on it and stuff like that. And if they're able to continuously do it, they'll develop a fan base that will continue to buy it. So, but I like it. That's kind of cool.
Well, and not very indie news, in fact, from one of the biggest, oldest publishers in the game industry, Sega has some news. They have christened 2024 as, quote, Fearless, Year of Shadow. So this is basically...
I love it.
Shadow the Hedgehog's year. It's sort of in the way that Nintendo a few years ago did the Year Luigi. This is the Year of Shadow.
I'm here for it.
Which I guess, like in the year that you have a major eclipse over the United States, this sort of makes sense. I don't know if they really planned that out.
I was about to say they missed the big marketing thing.
Right.
I don't know. We do have the IHOP Sonic stuff that we still have to go try.
We do. We need to figure out when that ends so we can plan. So IHOP has like a huge Sonic the Hedgehog menu that a lot of us are very excited to go try.
I really think we need to do it on a day that OJ can come, just that way they can order the chaos pancakes.
And order it that way.
Yes, of course.
Yes. Yeah, excuse me, can I have the chaos pancake? The what?
Is your friend okay?
Oh, yeah. He just always says it that way. It's fine.
I mean, yes and no.
We think so. We hope so.
Seems normal to me.
Are you asking me, are they acting the way they normally do? Yes. But yeah, so the Fearless Year of Shadow, they announced a few different things. Some of this they've previously announced. Some of this is newly announced. So Sonic Forces and Sonic Dash will have unlockable variants of Shadow, such as Super Shadow, Vampire Shadow, Sir Lancelot, and Dragon Hunter Lancelot.
Yeah, Secret Rings and Sonic and the Black Knight were a weird time.
Yeah, so different like costumes, variants of Shadow in some different games. The Sonic Symphony World Tour will be updating their set list to include some Shadow scores.
Okay, see this one I am, because the Sonic Symphony World Tour is going to be in Minneapolis like 2 weeks before I go home. Amelia already bought her ticket, and I'm like, I know we went to Chicago, but like I kind of want to go again.
Especially now that it has Shadow scores, you have to go.
I mean, look, we did get All of Me, I Am All of Me, but I'm like, are we gonna get Throw It All Away? Are we gonna get like SA2 Techno
I don't know.
Shadow?
You need to go so you can find out.
I mean, they've got to have like some song in there about his gun, right? Like, just
No, that you need Random Encounters Sonic the Musical.
Operation Gun.
That's the real reason that Vampire Survivors is doing Operation Guns DLC, because of it, Year of Shadow.
he's like a hidden character in that.
Look, you got a Vampire Shadow variant. It's all coming together.
He's the first vampire in Vampire Survivors.
I buy it.
It's Vampire Shadow. So they're doing that. Let's see. The Sonic the Hedgehog 3 film comes out this fall.
Yes.
You know, I don't know.
Words have failed.
Yeah, they really have. I don't know what to say. We are to our third Sonic the Hedgehog film,
and it's still good. That's what gets me.
I mean, we don't know the third one yet.
Well, fair, but like the fact that 1 and 2 are both good movies.
I would agree with that.
Well,
they're no Lord of the Rings, but they're good.
They're not bad.
I just know that I have not seen the second one. I just know that when I know.
Okay, we need to have a movie night.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll order IHOP and watch Sonic.
Delicious blueberry pig.
Yes.
But I just know that when I got done with the first one, the credits were rolling, and I looked over at the person I was watching it with, and I was like, that had no business being as good as it was. Like, what?
Right?
What?
I mean, that is both of those films. You get to the end of it and you go, "Oh, that shouldn't be as acceptable as that is."
Yes. Plus, Jim Carrey is like notorious for saying, "I will not do sequels, like or multiple."
Well,
Right.
and then he was retiring after 2, and he's back.
But he's
and
gonna
in the
do
fat
the
suit
Eggman.
now.
Yeah.
They confirmed that we're getting a more game accurate look for Eggman.
I mean, like, you're Jim Carrey. I feel like that's probably like the easiest paycheck in the world.
Yeah.
You
To
just go
those.
on set and do your
You're
thing.
just having fun.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
Which is everyone in that movie, really. They're all just having fun.
I mean, I get Jim Carrey at this point in his career not wanting to headline big films anymore.
Yeah.
But like, this seems like such an easy gig.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
But let's see. There is the Sonic Cross Shadow Generations released this fall. So this is the remake of Sonic Generations that they're adding Shadow content into.
I hate that title so much. And by hate it, I mean I love it, but I also hate it. Because my first thought is it should be a slash.
Oh no.
And then my second thought is, are we getting a Sonic X game? And then I remember, oh no, it's just a remake of Sonic Generations.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Japanese thing, the Sonic Shadow.
I hate it.
but-
I wish it would have, even if it was Shadow cross Sonic, it would have been better.
But it should not be a Sonic / Shadow game. That is a very different game. That is getting into hentai territory.
I was about to say, didn't we just talk about this? Who is that made for?
Oh, you know who that's made for. You know the sickos that the Sonic /
wanna know
Shadow
them.
game
I
is
don't
You know the number of Sonato fans out there.
No. I mean, I'm not yucking anyone's yum. So if you're listening to this
Oh,
podcast
man.
and that game would totally be up your alley, you continue to listen. I question. I don't yuck anyone's yum. I just question the yum.
Look, I don't mind like people being sickos. I'm just gonna call it like I see it.
Oh, man.
And then they released an image of a shadow themed motorcycle that's going to be at the MotoGP fan zone.
I can't get over, what is it? Is 2024 the year of just like,
The year of the shadow. That's what they said.
well, but it is apparently also the year of the motorcycle for Alicia fandoms, because remember Toyota did the Maridon motorcycle like a month ago, and now we're doing a Shadow.
I think you're being told something from the
Yeah.
universe.
I think I'm being
honestly.
told I have to get a motorcycle, which
Yeah.
I do not want.
Oh, well.
I do not want to
Apparently-
do.
Sorry, the fandom has spoken.
Yeah, I don't know what else to tell you.
People like you have to start driving motorcycles. That's the new normal.
I better pull up to Sonic the Hedgehog 3 on my motorcycle.
Please.
This is how you spot the real sickos. You go opening weekend, you see how many people would show up to the movie theater on a motorcycle, and you're like, oh my God. Officer, arrest them all.
There's a whole theater of them right there.
Oh man.
Bring the paddy wagon.
I have to laugh so much because I'm like the erasure of the already existing rival. Like we had it so good with that this was going to be the year of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles.
Right. Yeah. Because we're getting that Knuckles series this month.
We're getting the Knuckles series and like that cute little with the game name throwback, but nope, Shadow's got to come in and knock out my boy Knuckles.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, it does seem kind of weird in the year that we're getting a Knuckles TV series, they focus on Shadow, right? Because I
get it. The second movie was more focused on Knuckles,
right.
So like I get, but I'm just like, man, Knuckles has always been my second favorite after Sonic himself, and I'm just like, come on, let my boy have some spotlight.
They did. So while we're talking about Sonic, we might as well talk about, there was a comment that they sort of view Sonic as a potential cinematic universe, like building towards an Avenger style team up, and treating the characters in that fashion. So we've already.
Could you quit heavy breathing into the mic? We've already talked about hentai today. We don't need the heavy breathing into the mic, please. I get that you're frustrated.
I want to be very clear. I was not going there at all. That was very 100% you.
This gets you back for whatever you said earlier. Oh, when I was like, dudes with hats. So this is, ladies and gentlemen, this is karma.
But yeah, I mean, they're doing a Knuckles series. Obviously, like they're thinking they can do additional spin-off series and movies. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I will ask Alicia, you are the Sonic fanatic. Is there enough fandom to support multiple spin-off movies and TV series?
I mean, yes, but the thing is they would have to make some decisions about, like, you could, if you were to take like the comics cast, you could, absolutely. Or even if you wanted to lean into like the Sat AM cast with like Sally and Bunny and Antoine and all them. But like that's just not the direction they've been going, which...
Are we going to get a Cream the Rabbit movie?
If it is, it better be exactly like the Sonic the Musical from Random Encounters. I want that cream and I want that cheese. But I think that just the way that they're going... I don't know. I think it's... Like, you could, but also why?
Money.
If you can't think of the answer, that's usually the answer.
But like,
it's the answer to all your questions.
I mean, yeah, but I hope that they don't, because honestly, like, as someone who is a lifelong comic book fan and is literally doing her dissertation about comic book fandom, like, I'm so burnt out on superhero movies and superhero TV shows because of all that. And
which is why you can transition into Sonic movies and TV shows.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Maybe they'll be part of the cinematic universe that the Streets of Rage movie is going to be in. So we can have a crossover with the Streets of Rage characters.
Oh, man. Yeah, I really enjoy the Sonic movies right now for what they are.
Right.
And like, I don't want them to try and be more than that, because I love that we're leaning back into goofy and just fun. And I feel like if they start being like, oh, we're going to get to Avengers level, like, I do not need Infinity War. You know? Like, we had...
Which Sonic character dies?
Half of them, apparently. Like, I don't know. I think that there is some really interesting room. I would actually love to see more going back to some of the storylines in Sonic X that I think were really phenomenally done in the Japanese version, and even in the English dub, were good and like, made little 9-year-old me cry.
Right.
I think that some of that stuff I think you could do on like a big blockbuster scale, but I don't know. I would prefer to see it just be what it is.
Yeah.
But that doesn't even seem like the franchise that they're making right now, right? Like those first 2 Sonic films are not that. Those are very much like kind of family movies.
Yeah.
Right.
And like that's what I love about them.
Like, I mean, we're not getting a super serious Sonic story in these movies. And I think that's the appeal of them, right? This the sort of the appeal of the Mario movie, right? It was this like goofy sort of family movie. You could go very serious with Mario. They tried that in the 90s.
Which I love, but I also love camp.
The only serious Mario I want to see HBO's Mario Kart TV show based off the SNL trailer.
The Pedro Pascal.
Yes, that's what I want to see. That's the only serious Mario I want to see.
Have you not seen that,
No.
Christina?
Oh my gosh. Okay, we'll show it to you later.
Daddy rides a cart.
You need to see that.
It is better than it has any right to be.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
But yeah, I could see an occasional like crazy, and that's not to say I want them to like downplay, when this third film comes out, we're all excited to watch a child die on screen. Like,
Did you just ruin a part of the movie?
spoilers for a game that's 20 plus years old. But
Yeah,
I don't want them to downplay that, but I also don't want them to start taking themselves too seriously.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly what those comments. I think probably what they mean is we will do more spin-offs like the Knuckles, right? Like not that we're going to make Avengers in game, but like that we might do more side projects with these side characters.
Yeah.
And then bring them all together into a bigger film.
Yeah, and I would be down for that. Probably not as much. Like, I don't think, again, I am biased. Knuckles is my second favorite character. So I'm like him. I'm like, yeah, give him 6 episodes. I could see 6 episodes for like Team Chaotix as a whole. I don't know if I could see 6 episodes of SBO the Chameleon. You know?
But 6 episodes of Big the Cat, that's just not enough.
Look, I have the Runaway Guys playing Sonic Adventure for that.
I just want a Big the Cat fishing series, and it's Big the Cat setting out in a fishing boat, like drinking and talking the entire time, and he's like, "Yep, they ain't buying today, boys."
Look, at some point, Froggy's gonna run off, and he's gonna have to go get Froggy. I hope you can accept that.
Does it come back to the boat?
Yes.
Okay, then. All right.
I mean, look, that's the central setting. It's like the bar at Cheers, right?
Perfect.
But I mean, like, honestly, there's part of me that wishes if you're going to do something as dumb as make a Sonic cinematic universe, then go do something as dumb as make a series around Big the Cat that's all about Big the Cat fishing. And like really lean into
to be fair, I think Sega would. Sega is like top tier at doing ridiculous things like that.
I believe Sega would absolutely make that game, but like making a series, right? They're having to work with their partners, so that's
true.
somewhat different. Let's see. Sega are the ones who, for the Dreamcast, released a fishing controller. Which is an amazing controller.
And created Big the Cat because it wasn't selling enough.
Let's see. Other news, Star Wars Outlaws has announced a $130 Ultimate Edition.
How much is the game normally?
$70.
Almost double the price.
Yeah, I mean...
That better be an incredible Ultimate Edition.
We've been getting more and more of these, right? Like, it's not unheard of to get a $200 collector's edition of a game.
Yeah.
The main reason I put this in here is just that, I feel like every few years, the game industry has to stop and say, look, stop pre-ordering games. Stop pre-ordering $130 edition of games. Like, you don't know. Star Wars Outlaw may be a terrible game. Like, don't waste that much money on a bet on a game you know nothing about. This isn't Madden where you're like, oh, I'm going to play it regardless.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this is a game that looks really awesome. We don't know if it'll be any good. And it's $130. Like, that's so much money for most people.
That's insane.
I mean, you're right. It is almost double the normal price, but certainly if you wait a week on most games, you can get them for $60, and so you can get 2 relatively new games for this price. So yeah, it's kind of a weird thing that's been creeping up in games again. Let's see. Amazon has renewed their new Fallout show that just premiered this week.
Have either of you seen that?
I have not.
It's in my queue to watch because it looks really good, but I haven't watched it, and so I was like, oh, well, maybe they've seen it. So
I'm really bad at watching TV shows.
Yeah, that's same. That's why I'm like, it's in my queue. Like I binge. Like I will. I'm like, oh, I have 3 days off. I'll watch this entire series.
I have not watched that because instead I was watching X-Men 97.
Oh, is that one good?
So X-Men 97 is a continuation of the 90s X-Men cartoon that aired on Fox.
I did see a spoiler, and I'm not going to say it because it is a
don't
very
say.
new spoiler, but I'm just saying I did see a spoiler that has impacted my feelings.
So they're 5 episodes into this new series, this continuation, and the 5th episode, let's just say, made the internet go insane. And has a lot of people going, oh, wait, this is not a continuation of the kids' cartoon. This is a sequel for those kids now grown up as adults.
Oh, that's cool.
And that was already kind of obvious, but like the 5th episode really kind of drove home that point to a lot of people.
Gotcha.
So like that show is fantastic. Okay. Like if you like comic books, if you like the X-Men, like
that's why I haven't watched it yet, but my family has been, and they're like, watch it. I'm like, with what time? But I do want to watch it, even in light of this spoiler that I saw.
Yeah, I mean, even with one spoiler, there's still enough meat there. Even though I think I know what got spoiled for you because it's all over the internet. So I would say if you want to watch this, don't consume anything about this. Until you watch
avoid everything.
Avoid everything.
Anything that starts saying something about X-Men, just like immediately
run the other
it.
way.
Yeah. But no, that's cool that I've heard good reviews for that Fallout series. I think there's some controversy because apparently there's something that happens that contradicts the continuity of the games. But I have not watched it yet to know. But it looks really good and it's been getting good reviews. So, and apparently is good enough that they're renewing it for a second season. They've already renewed, what is it? They've done the second season already of the X-Men and they've renewed it for a 3rd season.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So, let's see. So we talked a bit ago about sort of this fallout for Apple with the EU and the EU imposing rules on them about outside app stores.
This will be lowercase f Fallout, not Fallout the game that we were just talking about.
No, completely unrelated to the last story. But there was some fallout from these EU rulings. So there's been further fallout while we were away, and that is that Apple has announced that they're going to start allowing emulators on the App Store.
Wow.
So up until this point, emulators have been banned. So like if you wanted to have a Super Nintendo emulator, you could not download that through the App Store. That caused a lot of people to go to hacking their iPhone so that they could install third-party software. Now they say like obviously you can't upload an app that is a bunch of Nintendo games with an emulator, but what theoretically I would assume you could do is create software that is an emulator, and then you could, upload ROMs separately, like through the Files app, onto your iPhone, and then play them through that. So I assume that's how that will work. I think there may already be some that have been released, but certainly there's a great deal of interest for that to happen. This also clears the way for them to have streaming services like xCloud, the Xbox gaming streaming service, and others onto the Apple products. And the other thing I'll say is that this isn't just for phones and iPads, but this would also be like Apple TV. So if you had an Apple TV connected to your television to stream Netflix and Disney, somebody could release an emulator for that so that you could play games on the big screen.
That's cool.
Let's see. EA has placed Dead Space franchise on hold after disappointing remake sales. So this was a couple of different stories that came out this week. First, there was a story that came out that said they were working on a Dead Space 2 remake and they canceled it after poor sales of the original remake. EA came out and denied that and said, no, that's not true. And then people said, well, it wasn't a Dead Space 2 remake so much. They were working on as an entirely new game, and that they have kind of shelved that because the Dead Space remake they released last year did not sell as well as they had hoped for. And that felt like a game that got really kind of trapped. They, what was that game? The Cristallo protocol. That was the former Dead Space developers made a game kind of like that was a spiritual sequel that came out 2 years ago, and then the Dead Space remake came out at the beginning of last year, and then the Final Fantasy or the Resident Evil 4 remake came out right after that, and it felt like it got sandwiched in between there and kind of forgotten.
Yeah.
And that's a shame because, like, you know, by all reviews I read were basically glowing of it, that it was a very good remake. So let's see. They have announced the Pac-Man Mega Tunnel Battle Champs game. Sorry, that is
quite a
mouthful. This is a 64-player battle royale Pac-Man game that is coming to PC and consoles on May 9th. Apparently, I had never heard of this game before. Apparently, this came out on Stadia.
Oh, yeah.
So the Google streaming service that is now defunct. And so they have taken that game and done a new version of it. This is a sort of, I guess, upgraded version of that game. And it looks a lot like the Pac-Man Championship Edition. If you've played that sort of modern.
Is it similar to like Tetris 99, Mario 99, like those kind of things?
No, you're all on the same map.
Oh.
All at once?
Yeah.
Oh.
So, or that's my understanding.
Yeah,
looking at it. So, like, did you ever see the Pac-Man Battle Royale game in arcades? So, if you went to like a Dave and Buster's or something, they would have those, and you were. It was 4-player, and you would you could like kind of bump into each other, and so you could bump into one of the other Pac-Man, and
You're unlocking core memories for me right now.
and you would knock them into Ghost.
Yeah.
But then you could also,
yeah.
if you got the power pellet, you could eat the other Pac-Man. And so the goal was to be the final Pac-Man, right? Like you're the Highlander of Pac-Man.
In the end, there can be only one.
Wow.
So
Cool.
this looks like it's in that style. So like a little bit of Pac-Man Battle Royale, a little bit of Pac-Man Championship Edition kind of mixed in a blender together, which looks potentially fun.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. I mean, I like those kind of games. That's why I was asking about the like Tetris 99 stuff like that.
yeah.
Where it's like the old school games and them playing with and figuring out how to like make them interactive and
Well, it is very much that, right?
Yeah.
Like it's let's take this classic game and how do we make that feel fresh and new
yeah.
for a new audience, right?
Yeah.
It's just not Tetris in the way that's, you know, every player's playing on their own board.
Oh, right.
And you're only sort of tangentially interacting with each other.
Right. When you clear the garbage, like
Right.
it shoots over.
This is much more direct interaction, at least from what I saw
That's cool.
of it. Let's see. Monday, in addition to the Eclipse, online play for the Wii U and 3DS was shut down.
R.I.P.
Yeah, I was gonna say it makes me sad, but at the same time, I haven't played on my Wii U in forever, so it's.
I did see a lot of people playing Splatoon 1 on the Wii U servers, and like they were online still when the shutdown happened, and they were like, "Stay online, don't shut off your Wii U. Like we're still here."
Yeah.
And I think I saw yesterday it was down to just one person left, and they were like, "I'm still here. It's so lonely."
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, this is the online play. They had already shut down the eShops for them, so you couldn't buy new games. This was just playing them online. For somebody who's talking about just went to a conference to talk about preservation, this is kind of an important issue, right? Like online play is part of game preservation.
Yeah.
Like Splatoon is an online game, right? Like I played quite a bit of Splatoon 1 online on the Wii U. And it's kind of sad to see this happen, but like I don't know what the solution to this is.
Same. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, same. Because I'm like, like you said, it sucks because now there is games like even if you have them, you can't play them anymore really. But like you said, what else can you do?
Yeah.
So like Super Mario Maker 1 is affected by this.
The rush for the final level was insane.
Yeah, so people were trying to clear and play all the levels that were online for that game. But like I'm one of those people who thinks Super Mario Maker 1 is better than Super Mario Maker 2.
I agree.
And I like Super Mario Maker 2, but 1 is a better game.
Yes.
The interface on the Wii U is better for building levels and everything. And it's sad. Like that's going away, and that's one, and all those levels are going away. And I would say that's like one of the best games of the last decade.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like that game's amazing. The fact that Nintendo actually made that is kind of amazing. And for that to disappear essentially, because like you can still boot it up and play it, but like you can't play it online. You can't access any of those levels, which is the real draw to that game.
Right.
Well, like I know, I think people did manage to download and save them all, but like now you have to go out and find that on some corner of the internet rather than just connecting to online play.
Right. So like when we talk about piracy and the importance of piracy, right? Like, yeah, piracy can be bad when, the new Zelda game is coming out and people are playing it 2 weeks before its release.
Yeah.
On emulators on PC. Like that's,
but with preservation stuff, it makes sense. Like it's a necessity. It's how people keep those things alive.
Yeah, because Nintendo's not going to do it themselves.
No, they're not.
Like, and it's not just Nintendo. This is Sony and we should know Microsoft has hired a new team to be in charge of games preservation, and nobody knows what that means for them. But it seems to be like, how are we going to keep games that are already backwards compatible going forward to a new console system? Right? So probably not new backwards compatibility, but like trying to preserve what's already there as they go forward. But yeah, like these companies aren't spending that money, and I kind of understand why. But like the effect of that, right, is losing Splatoon 1 maybe isn't the biggest deal because there's Splatoon 2 and 3 that you can go play now. But like losing Mario Maker in those levels is a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
So it's kind of sad news to see and everything. Inevitable news, but kind of sad. One last kind of sad piece of news here. The Immortals of Avium developer Ascendant Studios has furloughed the majority of their staff. This is after last year, I think it was about a month after the game came out, they laid off nearly half their staff. So this is furloughing basically the majority of the rest of the staff.
Dang.
So I didn't know exactly what it meant to be furloughed. So I actually looked this up, and it's basically they send you home and you're not getting paid. And theoretically, they may bring you back and you would still have your job.
You're in like a what's the word? Like
Limbo.
Limbo. Thank you.
Yeah. So, like, basically, this seems like, hey, we're going to see if we can either sell the company or get a major investment, or otherwise, we're going to lay everyone off and shut down.
Yeah.
I mean, this is one of those stories you have to kind of read between the lines on what's actually going on here. So, and that what I heard of that game was that it wasn't all that great, but also it wasn't like a complete disaster. So it's kind of sad to see that, because you think, well, these people probably could have gotten there eventually if given some time.
Yeah.
Maybe not with this game, but with a new game it would work on. So that's all bad news. Let's get to our big question, because this is more of a happy topic. So we talked about the year of Shadow the Hedgehog. How do you plan to celebrate the year of Shadow the Hedgehog? And Christina, we'll start with you.
Mine's simplistic.
Is it going to be like a more religious celebration?
Listening to folks' info dump about it, because I myself am not a follower. And
Christina just crossed herself as she said, "I am not a follower."
Yeah.
I mean, she's one of those like Easter Shadow the Hedgehog fans.
We used to call them
flower
keister.
child.
We used to call them keisters, that they would only show up on Christmas and Easter.
Right.
Oh, see, we call them flower children, because they're there weddings, funerals, Easter, Christmas.
Yep,
Whenever there's flowers, they're there.
Yep. I also do religious studies. I'm not trying to be offensive. But I also go to IHOP.
There we
and
go.
Enjoy the meal. And I did look this up while we were talking about that. While y'all were talking about that last thing, it leaves May 5th. So we
gotta get on that.
We have a breakfast date to plan.
So go to IHOP before May 5th.
I mean, that's like the last week of classes.
Yeah. Well, and I technically leave town the 29th because I'm gonna go see Daniel Sloss. He's a great comedian if you've never seen him in Denver. So
we may have to go without you. We'll send pictures.
But I want chaos pancakes. That's the only way I'm celebrating. Let me go.
How sad would that be? Us all sending pictures, like FaceTiming you. Oh man, these are delicious.
These chaos pancakes.
The Eggman Benedict. I need it. But yeah, that's all I have thought, which leaves quite a bit of the year left, and I'm okay with that.
You're also going to celebrate by watching the first two movies to be prepared for the third.
Oh, am I?
Yes.
Fine, that too.
Let's see, Alicia, how are you going to celebrate? How are you going to celebrate Edgy the Hedgy?
I know, like, I already did at the grad performance spotlight hour last fall, I did my Immortal performance, so, like, I don't know if I can get any edgier than that.
Okay, wait a minute. Was My Immortal, like, you dressed up as Shadow while, like, doing an interpretive dance to the Evanescence song?
No, My Immortal was bringing together personal narrative, and it was
Bring Me Back to Life song.
Yeah. I was,
well,
those are two different songs.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
I was about to say,
but no, it was my story with.
Though.
It was my story with the Harry Potter fanfic.
Oh well,
the most.
That's a little more disappointing than what I was hoping.
No, honestly, I might actually look at the schedule and see if I want to go back to Minneapolis early enough for the symphony with my sister again.
Do it.
We'll see, but I might break out. I might break out the Shadow the Hedgehog game.
Yeah.
Lord help me.
Yeah.
Lord help me get through those stupid arc levels with Maria. We were stuck on forever as kids. But at that and gotta get the Sonic Adventure 2 soundtrack back on loop, because that is the one thing you can always count on, regardless of anything else about the quality of a Sonic game. You can always count on the music being amazing.
They do have their own symphony, so that makes sense.
There you go. All right.
What about you, Justin? How are you going to celebrate?
Yeah.
I'm going to get a gun.
I mean, you do you.
I love it.
Just like Shadow, I'm just going to wander around openly carrying a gun in my hand at all times.
Operation gun.
Oh my
Pew, pew.
god.
You're just walking around instead of like pew pew instead of
I'm going to be like Homer Simpson. Like, I'm going to get the toast out of the toaster by shooting it.
There you go. There you go.
Well, that's lovely.
Like, stupid edginess is just like to me, that is the mantra of Shadow the Hedgehog.
Edgy the hedgy.
Like, that game, like, I still remember when that game got announced and they showed the first trailer. Because like that was back at a time when they weren't streaming live E3.
Right.
Yeah.
So like they put the trailer out and they were like, well, there's a Shadow the Hedgehog game. And I was like, well, that's cool. I kind of like Sonic Adventure. And then they were like, you see the trailer and he's got a gun. And you're like, what is this? What like carryover from 90s like hip coolness, like misguided ideals is this game? That we're giving a Sonic the Hedgehog character a gun. And like,
Don't forget too. He gets to swear every time he dies. It's damn not here.
Yeah, like
And and of course, where's that damn fourth Chaos Emerald?
so it's like we were talking about Prince of Persia earlier. Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time on like the GameCube, Xbox, PlayStation 2 is a beautiful. Incredible game. And then that game they were like, oh well, we don't think this game's going to sell particularly well because like the sequel came out something like a year later or so. So we're going to shift and the sequel is going to be super edgy and we're going to have all this like heavy metal music and we're going to give like the prince a makeover and his hair's longer and it's like kind of in dreads down in his face. And
Oh my gosh.
and that game is so stupid for that reason. Like had they made a direct sequel to The Sands of Time, it would have been amazing. And then they made this like incredibly stupid sequel. Mostly stupid just because like they're like, we're going to make it edgy.
Yeah.
And so every time they do that with something, you know, it always reminds me of Poochie from The Simpsons. Like, you know, like to me, Shadow is the Poochie of the Sonic universe.
Shadow is the Poochie. Write that down.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
And especially because we already had Knuckles, and Knuckles was sort of like the edgy Sonic character.
Yeah.
And then they were like, oh no, we kind of diluted him.
We
got
need
it.
more.
We need something edgier.
We need a gun. Operation gun.
We need a gun and we need him to say damn.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this is as edgy as it can get, kids.
This game is E10 and up.
And you just, like, there's part of you that wonders, like, well, where do you go from here? Like, is Cream the Rabbit going to be snorting cocaine in the next one?
No, Cheese the Chow has a
I mean, I'm fairly certain Big the Cat is smoking weed on that, on that boat. You know what I'm saying?
We don't know. He's out there alone.
Yeah.
That's why we need the series.
Plausible
dare
deniability.
This Froggy erasure. Big the Cat is not alone. Froggy is there.
Froggy's not real.
Froggy is-
That's the drugs.
Big, whoa, there's some good. Whoa, big.
Oh my God, I just realized I'm the Big the Cat of the Saluki X game. Have you seen my little animal companion?
Justin, you have become your favorite Sonic character.
I deserve that fate, don't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
I did something really terrible, like early in life, to deserve this. All right, that does it for this week's show. You can check past episodes and other stuff at SalukiGames.com, including the Saluki X Eclipse game. You can play through there. I want to thank Alicia and Christina for joining me this week. theoretically, we will be back next week and hopefully have a full crew. And we may actually go to IHOP. And if we do that, we're going to talk about it.
WrestleMania and pancakes coming next week.
That's the most like stereotypical American thing I can imagine. We're going to talk about wrestling and pancakes.
Oh my gosh.
We're all going to move to Tennessee, to the Smoky Mountains. But yeah, you can check in on all of that. Thank you for everyone listening. Again, makes it all worthwhile for us, for our listeners. And we will be back soon with a new episode.